And hello everyone who is watching this video, further descent or person of now. I'm going to go through my old presentation I did on relatives, which comes in really good handy because I'm going through the history of, well, military and army and navy and whatnot in the families that I know of. So far there's only a few Basils but there's many Glasslings that have been through it, and this was originally a project I made for a science class, and the teacher was very for military, and so I made this as an extra credit assignment, but I truly did it because I got to know a lot more about the origins of the family and a lot more people that I never even heard of. Some are still living, some have passed on. So far in this video I will be showing only as far as their military time, and there will be more videos covering them, but as of right now I'm just going through what I have right now. So let's go through this little presentation. So remember the following. So here we go. So the first one we got right here is the Basil side, which we got Domenico Basil. He is my grandfather's dad, my grandfather on my mom's side, which is Larry Basil. So anyway, let's go into it. So Domenico Basil, his branch was the U.S. Air Force. He served for 20 years. He was ranked a Major Master Sergeant. The events that he's had during his serving is the Vietnam War and Korean War. And so he would be my great-grandfather. And some of these pictures, as you can see, some of them are labeled, such as the first one, Domenico receives a Bronze Star, which is a very important thing in his ranking. And you got another picture on the bottom. Sorry, these are not cropped out. I just took pictures of them from my phone. And so the third picture, it says the barracks in Japan during the war. Domenico was in Japan, so basically he had to go to Japan during the war, and so that was a picture of when he was there. Anyway, so and then this is very funny, but well, it's a little sad, but it's kind of funny to think about. So the fourth picture is of Domenico after an injury, which I'm going to explain from the text. He chased after my great-aunt's dog, which dog's in a snow-covered ground, and he tripped on a buried log that was used for a parking stone, because back then we didn't. If any of you guys are from the future descent and whatnot, yeah, this is what they used back then, and this was outdated back, even after me. So yeah, welcome to the club. Causing him to break his leg, and I believe so. In the picture there, it's him, his wife, and I believe that is his general or colonel. I cannot remember because I did not ask a lot of questions with these photos, but. Most of this stuff is brought from Trinda Basil, and she is my grandfather's older sister, which she really is into this stuff, so I'm glad I can get information from her, because I haven't really had a lot of information on the family back then. Anyway, let's keep going. So this is more of Domenico. So this first picture right here, Domenico was also a food server in the army. Ironically, Larry Basil, his son, which is my grandfather, he served in the Navy, but he was a cook, so I can see where that's coming from. I cannot label people in the photos, but I can tell you what they are supposed to be of. As far as I know, they're just soldiers, troopers, all of the above. The second picture right here is a memorable thing that told by my great-aunt Trinda, which she said that this was a very memorable time of his life, that he would go to certain areas, and the only area I know of was in this picture, which was South Dakota, Thanksgiving, and this happened only during Thanksgiving. They went to an orphanage to help in his spare time, which I think is actually pretty cool in a way, because it shows that he wasn't just a soldier, he was a caregiver. And in other many words. Sorry, I'm stuttering, I'm not doing this on script. Anyway, so this is another Basil one. And this is James McDaniel Sr. Now you guys are probably wondering if you don't know the Basil side, there's the reason why there's a senior in the name is because there's another James McDaniel still living to this day, and he is my cousin. He's in his 20s, I believe he is 21 now, and he's in college, so, props to him. Anyway, and this would be his grandfather, I think. This should be his great-grandfather. It would be my great-grandfather. So, anyway, James McDaniel Sr., he served in the Navy from 1945 to 1949. He was a seaman. He was stationed in San Diego Naval Base, and he was in the draft. So these pictures right here, the first one's of him. I cannot pinpoint what years these pictures are from, but I know directly people. The second one is of him and his wife, which is my great-grandma, Clarice, or Claire. So it was said many different ways. I believe, though, the traditional way that the family said it was Claire's, but I could be wrong. Or Claire. I believe Clarice is probably the traditional way. Anyway, so there's a third picture of him, and the fourth picture is of him and his wife, which Grandma Claire's. And so, one more thing before I do anything. So there was a really harsh topic. So he died very early on, actually, but the funny part is the dates were similar, I believe, but I believe there's like 30 years apart or so. I can't remember specifics, but there'll be an update video on this. So anyway, let's just keep going. So this one, the more recent ones, the two, Robert Basil, he served in the Navy from 1972 to 1978. He was a seaman, first class. To me, he would be a great uncle. He was the youngest brother out of the three children of Domenico. And so he was a nuclear physicist. He was stationed on a submarine. He served in the Vietnam War. He was in draft. And he was on, one of the ships he was on was the USS George Washington nuclear sub. I do not know anything else about him as far as his military record, but this is all that I can find. So anyway, on to the most recent one I know of, which I have a bond with a lot, is Larry Basil. He served in the Navy. He served let's just say he served in terms of food services, but that still counts, so that's why it's in the project. He served from 1975 to 1979. He was a third-class petty officer. Again, I do not know specifics on these, so don't ask me what does it mean to be a third-class petty officer. He is my grandfather. He worked in food services. And a bunch of these facts, I got a lot of information from him because it was very relevant, because I was always over at his house a lot, so that's how I was able to get a lot of this information. I was more connected, in contact. Anyway, so an interesting fact is he was stationed on the USS Orcasani carrier. I might be saying this wrong. So this is an incident that happened with his carrier. His carrier got into an incident with a Libyan tanker that made a crash. It made great grandfather. So this basically happened during Domenico was when he heard about this. So basically he was a smoker at the time. He was very nervous about Larry Basil, his son, my grandfather, that he burned a hole in his shirt, which caused the ashes of it, which was caused by ashes, which in a way it was it was pretty funny, but it was probably very nerve-wracking. So an event that Larry Basil went through, he landed on an airplane. He landed my grammar. He landed an airplane on an aircraft, and he went to the Philippines twice. He went to Hong Kong. He fed 4,000 people each meal, which basically is like 3 meals a day. So you think about that, do the math. He was enlisted for 11 days after Vietnam ended, and he flied the squadrons of Silver Foxes. So, and if you guys don't know, it's a very famous group in the military status. I actually researched a little bit, not too much though. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. So this is the end of the Basil ones as far as I know. So here we go with the Klein Hesselings. This I got a bit of information on, but I do not have a lot depending on who it is. But the one difference in the Klein Hesselings one compared to the Basil one, the Basil ones had all male as far as I know of right now, but the Klein Hesselings did have a female in the army, which she'll be in one of these slides. But anyway, first starting off with Archibald Martin. He served in the army. He's a private first class. He served from 1919 to 1922. He was stationed in Illinois, U.S. He fought in World War I. He is relatable to me. Is great grandfather. An event in his life during his time serving the army was that he was on a ship. It got hit by a torpedo. He was on the lower deck, blowing the hearing out of his left ear. As of now, he is deceased. I do not know specific dates because I did not do a lot of research. But as far as that, that's the only event that I really have. So if you see these pictures, both of him at different times, but I'm not that certain when. So anyway, so next ones. So Earl Klein Hesseling, he served in the Navy. He was an officer. Served from 1935 to 1955, 20 years. He was stationed on ships in Washington, D.C., in the USA. He fought in World War II and the Korean War. He's my great uncle. An interesting fact about him is he loved flowers, and there's not much events on him so far, at least as far as I've gotten from Grandma Jan and Grandpa Daryl, which are Daryl Klein Hesseling and Jan Klein Hesseling, to be specific. They are my father's parents. As of now, Earl is deceased, and that's him, and I believe that might be his wife. It might be, I think it is his wife. Anyway, but I don't really know specifics, as you can tell. Alright, so the next one right here. Now this one, I kind of bragged about how that Lester was kind of, like, all the Klein Hesselings I've seen, like, in the past, like, decade, or, know since the past decade or whatnot, ever since I was living, I noticed that in one time in all of our lives, except for me, I think I kind of am excluded because I have a Basil gene, but most of the sons, which there's only been sons in the last couple of generations, that they've all had a similar facial structure to Lester. So Travis Klein Hesseling, he's my uncle on my dad's side, and he's the youngest of the uncles, and he basically has the same facial structure as Lester, which Lester basically, I guess, passed that on. My dad, as far as I know, he had that facial structure in his teenage years, Not much now. Derek, I do not know of, which he's the oldest uncle. I don't know if he had the facial structure, but as far as I know, it's very genetic wise. Anyway, let's actually get to his information. Lester Klein Hessling, he served in the Army. He was a sergeant. He served from 1936 to 1944. He was stationed in the U.S. and Europe. He was in World War II. He's my great grandfather. An event that happened was he was right behind the front lines of the war, up on the poles, holding wires, which I believe that was one of the things that he had to do during the war. So, yeah. So as far as now, he's deceased. And there's another person, I do not know if he was in the war, but he was married, I believe, to... Anyway, I'll get that out of the way. I'll be able to do a more elaborate thing about that later. But this is kind of just like the military stuff. So, anyway, let's go on the next one. Is Carl Lundberg. I believe that was actually the guy that I was talking about. He served in the Navy. He's a machinist. He served through 1940 to 1943. He was stationed on a ship. He was in World War II. He was my great-grandfather. And the events. So the event from him is he got routed feet by the ocean floor. He is now deceased. And as you can see right there, there's a picture of him. I believe that was Grandma Helen, but I am not that certain. Some of these people I do not know of. As you can tell, I do not have a lot of information. So, because this is just the first thing of information. This is like my peak of the time that when I first started knowing information about the family. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Archibald Martin Jr., which if you've seen from the first one, there was another Archibald. And so, Archibald Martin Jr. served in the Air Force. He was an airman, which, funny enough, I actually read a book about the airmen. And so, he served from 1940 to 1943. He was stationed in California. He was in the Air Force during World War II. He's my great-grandfather. Some interesting facts about him. His nicknames were Archie, which kind of makes sense in a way, and Rusty, and I do not know why his nickname was Rusty. As of now, he is deceased, and that's pretty much all I know about him. As you can see, I believe that's his wife, and it's him on the picture. Alright, let's go to the next one. So, this next one, Donald Martin, I did not find pictures for. Unfortunately, there was not any pictures I could find at the time, so that's why there was no pictures. But I do have information about him. So his name was Donald Martin. He was in the Air Force. He was a bomber. He served from 1940 to 1944. He was stationed in the U.S. and Europe. He was in the Air Force during World War II. He's my great-great-uncle. Yeah, I don't even know. I wish I was able to find a picture because it says he has flaming red hair, which, if you guys have seen any sort of thing like that, yeah, so it was probably very uncommon because back in the day, but I don't know, it might have been common. I just thought it was common because like red hair was kind of unique in a way. As of now, he is deceased, and that's all I found of him. There's no pictures. So, next one, Leroy Taylor. He was in the Army. He was a transportation mechanic. He served from 1941 to 1945. He was stationed in the U.S. He was in the Army during World War II. He is my great-great-uncle. I don't know any ages between, so basically, if there's multiple great-great-uncles, I'll have to figure that out sooner or later on who was older than the other, when were they born and whatnot. And as of now, he is deceased. As you see right there is a picture of him. Very, very early picture. As you see, black and white. So, okay, let's go to the next one. So these next ones, I don't have pictures for. I don't think. I think there's some pictures. I do believe. Yeah, there's pictures right here, but I just didn't put them with this because they were both of these two were both in the same pictures with each other, so that's why I put them in the next slide. But let's go on the information first. So Mike Gibbons, he served in the Army. He was infantry, and he served from 1950 to 1953. He was stationed in Korea. He was in the Army during the Korean War. He is my great-great-uncle. And an event is that in Korea, taking a hill, and everyone in his group was killed except for him, and was left for dead by the Koreans. He got shot in the shoulder and near his heart and near his upper chest. The bullet was off by 1 inch, and the hole was the size the hole left was the size of a softball. So if you think of a softball, yeah, that's how big the hole was. And I gotta say, that's very gruesome, but it's true. So basically, some of his awards, his medals, were Purple Hearts, decorated Medal of Honor, life expectancy less than 3 minutes because he was infantry. And as far as that, and so he's still alive, surprisingly, and he is, as of right now, he's 86. I do not know when that age was put there. So basically, at that point, as far as I know, he's 87 or 86. So basically, as you can tell from the event, he came close to dying while serving. He got his position by being a smart aleck to an officer. So as you can see, there are some smart alecks in the family. And so that just shows, if you're going in the Army, don't be a smart aleck. And so this one's just a barrel of laughs, just by them because he was infantry. Anyway, let's go to the next one. Carl Ice. He served in the Army. He was infantry, advanced infantry, and then he ranked up to sergeant. He served from 1959 to 1963. He was stationed in Alaska. He is my great-great-uncle, multiple great-great-uncles, and he's an expert at shooting. So that's on there. No events so far, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that covers it. So this next one is of Carl Ice and Mike Gibbons. Both recent, one back in the day of when they were young. Carl Ice was on the left on the first picture. Mike Gibbons is on the right on the first picture. Mike Gibbons is on the left on the second picture, and Carl Ice was on the right. So as you can see, the progression between the two, yeah, there's basically, I do not know when these years are. I'm guessing the second one was from the recent years of like the 90s or 2000s. So, well, actually, one of them is alive, so I'm guessing maybe one of the 2000s. But anyway, this is our last slide right here. We have Joyce Ice, and she served in the Army. She served from 1967 to 1971, and she was stationed in Texas, Fort McAllen. I don't know if I said that right. Alabama, Washington, Fort Huachuca, AZ, Arizona, I believe. She was a staff sergeant. She was in the Army during Vietnam. She is my great-great-aunt. She was a nurse for the veterans. She is still alive. She is 76. And the event in her life was that the whole experience was an event by taking care of the wounded veterans and free education, which was very relevant. And Joyce is the woman in the middle, and I do not know the year that was taken, so I'll probably have more dates on this soon. Anyway, that was my military presentation, and also more history about the Clan Hastings and Basil's bloodlines. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that this brightens up some information if any future descents were going to see this. And I hope this helped with any linkage to any of the family trees or just interesting facts in general about the family. Anyway, this is it for right now. I will be getting a few more presentations soon because I do have like 3 or 4 other ones about the recent members of the family, which I will get to in a later video. I hope you guys enjoy this. I know this is a long video. There's a lot of information here. And so, I hope you guys enjoyed. And this is Kyle Glenn Hesselink, known as was the grandchild of Patty and Larry Basil and Jen and Daryl Hesselink. And parents Jen Hesselink and Kirk Hesselink, along with sister Kelsey Hesselink. I know this information because I want to stay relevant to the people that are the further generations that don't know that I would exist. So, because I know some people are just like, some future descendants probably gonna be like, well, who's that? No, then you'll know. So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and more videos will be coming soon. Goodbye.